They're the ones he has to do. He has to enrol in or undertake a certain number of subjects because they fulfil the requirements for his Queensland Certificate of Education and they fill the purpose of meeting our Catholic identity. Okay? And there are 3 of those in total. Boys, what are they? You must do a mathematics, you must do an English subject, and you must do a religion and ethics subject. They're the compulsory 3. Within that, though, you still have some scope for choice. Your son can do English as a general subject, and I'll explain that terminology later on, or he can do essential English. He can do mathematics as a general subject, general mathematics. He can do mathematics methods, or he can do essential mathematics. And from the RE pile, he can do the study of religion, religion and ethics, or the certificate 3 or 4 in Christian ministry. So he must take one of those because as a school we believe they're 3 of the most important subjects for him to, his future development. Okay. The elective subjects, by contrast, they're the ones that he then gets to choose in order to fulfil his university ambitions or his career ambitions or his workplace ambitions or for his trade. Okay? Likewise, there are 3 of those in total, but the elective subjects can be chosen from a broader range of about 6 subjects, okay, or 6 subject types. That gives us a 6-subject timetable. Presently, the boys do a 7-subject timetable, so they've got 7 different subjects that fills up their 30-lesson week. All right. Next year, they do 6 subjects, and we are changing our timetable. We're going to 5 lessons a day of 1-hour lessons, which will have in total 25 lessons per week. Okay. Which means at a senior level, all senior subjects will be allocated 4 1-hour lessons a week, or a total of 240 minutes. One of our major reasons for going to that is to actually increase the time that your sons will have in the senior subjects than what is currently delivered. At the moment, our Year 12s only have 200 minutes a week. So we're increasing that by 40 minutes because we believe under this new system, and I haven't mentioned that, but your sons are going into a completely new system. So again, it's new language for everybody. Okay? And we think they're going to need as much opportunity and time in those subjects as possible. So, this will be my main slide. These are the 6 broad categories that your sons have available for them at the college, ranging from general subjects down to TAFE options and university courses if that meets their requirements. Okay. If we start with the general subjects, your general subjects are best described as your tertiary or your academic subjects. They're the subjects that more than the other subjects, and I'll put a bit of a proviso around that, but more than the other subjects will directly contribute to his university placement. Over time, because this system is new, they'll probably also be referred to as ATAR subjects, okay, because they are the ones that will determine your son's Australian tertiary admissions rank for entry into a particular university. Okay. For those of you who've had parents through this school, they worked under the OP system as of surprises or any questions that anyone has there in regards to those? Joe? You're a little bit too early, Mrs. Cooper. If you just let the presentation roll on, we'll get to that. How will psychology be taught? Well, that fella over there drinking his coffee. Mr. Scoothorpe is going to be teaching psychology. Oh, sorry, psychology or philosophy and reason? Psychology, Mrs. Bailey, it's classified as a science. Okay, so those guys are taking that one on board. So psychology and philosophy and reason are new to the school this year. We're fairly excited about putting those on the table. Okay. In regards to the maths, mathematics general, if we use current terminology, mathematics general would be considered to align with mathematics A. Mathematics methods would be mathematics B. Specialist mathematics would be mathematics C. Okay? So all of those will help your son with an ATAR. So what is the ATAR? The ATAR is a number, and it ranges from 0 at the bottom to 99.95 at the top, And because each rung goes up in increments of 0.05, it's a 2,000 point scale. So all the students in Queensland who are eligible for an ATAR will be ranked somewhere on that scale when your sons graduate in 2020. Okay? In a nutshell, it's a measure of achievement in senior schooling. I wrote the next bit in because we're a boys' school, we like competition. Effectively what it means is how many other people did you beat, how many other people were you better than. An ATAR of 65 would mean that you are better than 65% of all the other Queensland students. You've done as well as or bettered that particular number. So if you get an ATAR of 99.95, you're effectively better than 99.95% of the 60,000 Queensland students who are likely to graduate in 2020. Okay? It means, in a direct number, you are one of the top first of those 60,000 students. So if you're chasing a 99.95, you're in a very elite group of boys or girls.
Sorry, just when you said about 99% better than all of Queensland, but isn't it Australian?
It's an Australian rank, but I'm just using Queensland stats because that's what we faced on.
Oh, okay, so they're not competing against the rest of Australia, just this.
No. But the ATAR is used, and one of the reasons Queensland's going to it is because it is used nationally as a placement for university entrance. So, how is the ATAR used? As I just said, it's a cut-off or a benchmark for university courses. Okay? If you want to get into a popular course or a course that is academically difficult and challenging, you will require a higher ATAR. Okay? The universities will probably set a higher ATAR before they allow you entry. If it's a less demanding course or a less popular course, they usually have a lower ATAR required to get in. Okay? In a similar way, if you want to go to a popular university, University of Queensland is renowned as being the academic elite. It's one of the best universities in Australia. So they tend to put a high ATAR score on their courses because there's a lot of people trying to get into that particular. So about every second boy in Australia wants to be a physiotherapist. Okay? It's a highly popular course, and at the University of Queensland, it's a highly popular university. So to get in 2017, you require an ATAR in 99, effectively the equivalent of an OP1. Bachelor of Architecture in New South Wales, you can get in with an ATAR of 89. Again, that's getting close to an OP of about a 6. And then as you can see, as you go down the list, if the course is less popular or it's a more regional university, it's going to be easy to get into because they set lower ATARs. So if your son can't get into a very, very popular or very, very difficult course because he's trying at a prestigious or popular university, look for other options. It doesn't make the university degree they get any less worthwhile, but sometimes they're easy to get into. Might need an OP of 99 to get into physio at the University of Queensland. James Cook, Central Queensland Union, also offer physiotherapy as courses, and you might get in with a mid-range 8, somewhere along those lines. So there's options in their scope for you, regardless of what your ATAR might be. So how do you become ATAR eligible? There's me trying to get the language out of my head. You have to do a couple of things. You've got to get a passing grade in an English course. And that English course could be general English or it could be essential English, and we'll talk about essential English in a minute. As well as that, you have to study 5 general subjects, okay, and effectively would hope you'd pass them at grade 12, but it's only the grade 12 units of those particular subjects that will contribute to your ATAR. Okay? But effectively, you want an ATAR, 5 general subjects, and pass an English course. Okay? With that said, there's a little proviso. You can also get an ATAR by studying 4 general subjects and 1 other course at a Certificate 3 level or an applied subject. And we'll talk about applied in a minute. My recommendation, it's only a recommendation, if you are serious about going to university, you're fairly certain about the course you want to do, I would do a minimum of 5 ATAR subjects or 5 general subjects. Probably wouldn't be relying on an applied subject or a certificate course to get me the ATAR that I'm looking for. If you are a competent studier, if you are organised in your study regime, if you're doing well in your current subjects, if you are doing extension subjects in the main, and you're fairly certain of what you want to do, I would suggest doing 5 ATAR subjects or general subjects and a line of study. If you're a little bit uncertain about one of your general choices or one of your options, I'd recommend doing 6 general subjects so you've got a bit of a backup there. Okay? But the choices are yours and the choices are varied. So how is the ATAR produced? Every general subject that your son will be enrolled in Year 12 is worth a certain number of marks. Okay? Every assessment item that he does, and there are 4 of them in total, is worth a certain number of marks. The total number of marks for each of those general subjects will always equal 100. Again, it's best shown by way of example. If your son takes on English, he has 4 assessment pieces. They're each worth 25% or 25 marks. Total possible at the end of Year 12, 100. And he will get a raw score out of 100 and it will appear on his senior statement. Biology, only by way as an example, is a little bit different. You can see the percentage for different assessment tasks changes, but again, it's converted back to marks. 10%, 10 marks, 20%, 20 marks. Again, the total is 100. Some of you might be looking at that one going, wow. Okay. Mathematics methods, again, 4 assessment tasks, different percentage contribution to each of those tasks, but the total is 100. Okay. So how will the ATAR be produced? The son will get his raw score total out of 100 for each general subject that he does. Those particular results are sent away to Queensland Curriculum Assessment Authority and sent away to QTAC. QTAC takes all those numbers, punches in their computers, runs an algorithm, and out the other end spits out his ATAR, somewhere between 0.00 and 99.95. As you see, it'll be his best 5. So if you only decide to take 5 general subjects, everything hinges on those. If you decide to do 6, they will still take his best 5 results from his 6 courses. Okay. Now, you probably saw that item number 4 on each of those particular subject outlines was an external examination. This is a new system that we are moving to. Queensland has been operating on a internally and externally moderated system of education for 25 years. This is a pretty big change. Okay? Yes, there was the QCS test. It's no longer going to exist. It was an external exam, but the external exam your sons are going to be doing are going to be specifically subject-based, all right? Not a broad spectrum test like the QCS test. These external examinations, okay, of the 4 tasks that the boys do for a general subject, the external examination will be produced externally by the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority. The other 3 tasks that your sons do for each of those general subjects are produced by the teaching staff of the college. Okay? They're also marked by the teaching staff of the college. The external assessment is not. It's externally produced and externally marked by the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority. That external examination will happen on the same day, at the same time, for every student undertaking those subjects in Queensland, and it's meant to be supervised following fairly prescriptive processes that the Queensland Curriculum Assessment Authority produce for us. Okay? If your son is in a humanities subject, then that final external examination will be worth 25% of his total result out of 100. If he is in a mathematics or science subject, that external exam will be worth 50% of his total out of 100 marks. Okay? I know a lot of our boys, when you ask them about their study habits, go, when do you start studying for a mathematics exam? Last night. When's your exam? It's tomorrow. Okay. That mentality really has to change. It'll be something we push through with our boys over the next 2 years. They need to be studying pretty much constantly from the time, well, certainly in year 11, but more so important when they hit grade 12. This notion of constantly revising is going to be paramount to their success. Okay. Other things about the external exam. The content or the questions for the external exams in humanities will come from Unit 4 only. So it's the last unit of work that the boys do in grade 12, which effectively lines up with semester 4. Okay? For your maths and sciences, it'll basically come from all the stuff they've done throughout year 12. Okay? So they can have questions from term 1 of year 12 in their external examination. Again, you need to revise that work progressively throughout the 12 months or throughout your time in senior schooling. Other things, some of these are my favourites. External assessment for all general subjects will occur in term 4 of year 12. There are no external exams in year 11. Term 4, year 12 only. Those external exams will start in week 4 of term 4 of year 12. Okay? Our boys have been used to studying up to participating in classes pretty much up to the second last week of school. For all intents and purposes, school is going to finish at the start of week 4 of term 4 for them. So they will have their September holiday, come back for 3 weeks. During that 3 weeks, they're not likely to be exposed to any new learning. Some areas they might have to, but generally that's going to be a period of time for revision, assessment, practice examinations. And then they go into this exam block time. That exam block's going to run for 17 school days. Okay? 3.5 weeks. At the present, our year 10s participate in exam blocks of about 3 days. Mum and dads, hold on your hat because it's going to be a very rough ride for those 17 days of your exam block. Okay? But remember, your sons won't be at school. They will have left school, they'll be home with you, and they will be coming back into school to sit their exams at a time that is set by the Queensland Curriculum Assessment Authority at anywhere for their subjects that they're enrolled in over that 17 days. We should know when the exam times will be. The QCAA is hoping to put those out at the start of their grade 12 year. Right, so your son can work around holidays and other things knowing this is when your exams will be. Once they're published, they won't change. Your kid needs to be here.
So if they're doing 6 subjects,
Yep.
and that's over 17 days,
Yep.
they only have 1 assessment piece per subject, so they're only going to come in 6 times over that 17 days.
They only have to come in 6 times over that 17 days.
And the rest of the time they're at home without
Yeah.
doing stuff.
Well, we would hope they're at home studying, knowing they probably study better when they're sort of being supervised. We will look at setting up arrangements in here where they can come into the school and meet with tutorial groups of like-minded boys and study. So that'll be an option that'll be available to them. Yep, they will get their scheduled exams at the start of year 12. Yeah. Yep, date, time, all that sort of thing. Okay, and that shouldn't change. All right. You're not supposed to be asking questions. Have you met the ex-head of department for English? Matthew? I'm sure it'll come back to you. Yeah. It would certainly be available. The QCAA is setting up an interactive portal where the students' results will be placed. That information will be available through that portal. We will get a copy of that. We will also distribute it to them individually. So there shouldn't be anyone not knowing when their exams are scheduled.
So Paul, if these exams are set externally,
Yep.
the content of the exams, are the schools set that what is this you need to teach, or are they actually setting
No. We won't see the exams. A lot of people are worried about Queensland being able to handle the rigorous nature of the external examinations, but we've been doing it for 25 years with the QCS test. QCS test, we don't see it. It arrives in metal cases. Those exams are locked in a safe. There's 2 community reps who supervise the administration of that exam. So a lot of the processes that Queensland are going to put in place replicate the Queensland. Yeah, absolutely. This teachers will get under this new system to sit back, lie in beach chairs and drink margaritas. So you know, it's just happy days all around. If there are illnesses, there is a prescriptive process in place for what happens at that point in time. So if your kid is sick, misses his exam, there's obviously medical certification that needs to be taken, and they will take into account his results on his other 3 pieces when they award the final result. Okay. Same thing for the QCS QCS test. They won't no, it doesn't get rescheduled. He misses it, and everything is based then on his performance in the other areas. Okay. For sort of emergency things, kid breaks a leg, and it happens just about every QCS test because there happens to be normally a rodeo on the weekend before. Some kid will have a broken leg and will need to get special provision to or special conditions for him to be able to sit the QCS test. So those special conditions are also available for your sons. If your sons are dyslexic, if your sons have colour blindness, if your sons suffer from anxiety, if your sons have any medical conditions, they can apply for special provision for all of those things. And again, it's nothing new to us. It's a process that happens. Yeah, most of the heads of department have written their programs so that it replicates the assessment tasks that they'll be doing. Okay. So it's pretty much the 3 internal assessment tasks in grade 12 will replicate the 3 internal assessment tasks in grade 11. We're going to be running formative assessment, mock exams, practice exams all the way through. To get back to Kara's question though, Kara, I did digress slightly. You wanted to know what the teachers are doing? The teachers aren't given the exam, the teachers are given a syllabus document, and the syllabus document dictates much more prescriptively than it has done in the past what needs to be taught, by when it needs to be taught, the concepts that are underpinning it. That's our teacher's job, to deconstruct all of that and teach it and deliver it so when the boys get into the exam, they're capable of handling it. Okay. So I might have lied about that sitting back drinking margaritas thing. Okay. All right. Any final questions on ATAR external exams? No? Remember, we can have further conversations later. So back to the main... Joe, is there going to be a segue in the next slide? Yeah. No, we'll be looking at another time for our valedictory so that they will all be here, because some boys won't do general exams, general subjects, and won't have external exams. So by the end of week 3, they're finished, okay? And given we're a boarding school and the boys travel long distances, it's going to be extremely difficult to get them back. So as a leadership team, we're going to be looking at when do we run our valedictory day. I think having our formal in the middle of the year is a good idea, especially under this new structure. So, you know, it's, again, that's something we've been doing for years, so that falls in a good spot. All right. We do have concerns about how we're going to manage the boarding arrangements, because some boys may have one general exam, they're a boarder, they've got 3.5 weeks on their hands. In some cases, they're living in Northern Territory. Okay. Do we want to leave the boys over in the dorms for 3.5 weeks? It's not something I want to be supervising, I can tell you. They'd be climbing the walls. But there are options to run study courses, certificate courses, work experience, and we'll look at that depending on the nature of the cohort who remains in the school. Okay. All right, so back to the main slide, applied subjects. Applied subjects, I guess, can be described as non-ATAR subjects. Your applied subjects are generally more practical, less of an academic demand. They're geared more towards life skills and general work skills, and they're an option for boys who may not be considering an ATAR. Okay? There are the applied subjects that your son can participate in. Essential English, for all intents and purposes, is your non-ATAR version of English, and Essential Mathematics is a non-ATAR version of your general mathematics. Okay? But both of those courses will contribute to their QCE, and that's something I'll talk about later. And the English course at that level can meet the requirement for passing an English subject to contribute to your ATAR. Okay? Applied subjects don't undertake external examinations. They do have 4 internal assessment pieces, okay, but none of them are external. There's a proviso around that, and I'll tell you later. And your applied subjects are marked on a standard schema and allocated A to E results for each of the tasks by our teachers in the school. Okay? Your sons won't get the raw score out of 100 for your applied subjects. That's not the way the system works. Main slide, VET subjects. VET stands for Vocational Education and Training, and I see Steele shaking his head because that's his baby. Okay? So your VET subjects in the literature that you look at may be known by different names. They could be called competency-based subjects, modular-based subjects, certificate subjects, or trade subjects. They're called the trade subjects because they directly align with apprenticeships and traineeships that your sons may wish to enter into. They're called certificate courses because at the end of the day, if your son meets all the requirements for those, he gets a bit of paper as a certificate saying he is competent in a range of skills and therefore he has met the requirements for the course that he's participating in. I like VET subjects as an option for the boys because if they do a range of them, they can walk out with a ready-made resume. Okay? And it's an impressive thing to show an employer. I'll use Steele as an example. Steele's going to be leaving us with a Certificate 3 in Christian Ministry, a Certificate 3 in Fitness, a Certificate 2 in Automotive Vocational Preparation, a Certificate 2 in Furniture Making Pathways, a Certificate 2 in Engineering. Okay? He will also have his Queensland Certificate of Education and his Senior Statement and any other things that he's gained along the way. So for him, walk into an employer, this is what I've done, this is what I can do, this is what I've been assessed at on a national scale. Okay. So, VET subjects, like your applied subjects, do not have external examinations. Okay. VET subjects allow the boys multiple opportunities to prove their competency. Competency means, can you do it? The automotive course, can I take the oil out of a 2017 Hilux? Okay. If I take out the sump plug and all the oil falls on the ground, my supervisor will say I am not yet competent. If next time I go in there, I remember put the tray under the sump before I take the sump plug out, and then once the oil is out, I put the sump plug back in, and then I fill it with oil, Mr. Green will say, you're competent. Tick, you've met that module. It's slightly more complicated than that, but you get the idea. Okay? If your son undertakes a vocational education certificate at level 3 or better, that will contribute to his ATAR for general subjects and a certificate 3. Okay? And again, at the end of the day, he gets a national recognised certificate. He won't get an A to E result because that's not the system of grading that vocational education uses. If he passes all his modules, he'll get the full certificate. If he doesn't pass all his modules, on his senior statement will be a list of the modules that he is competent of doing. Okay. These are our VET subjects that are on offer. Construction is your basic entry building course, carpentry course. Furnishings is your cabinet making course. Those two go well together. You can be a builder and then gain the fine hand skills from doing the furniture making component. Automotive is your entry-level mechanical course. Engineering is your metal fabrication course. Certificate 2 in tourism. We have boys who run the cafe. There'll be a cafe operating in there tonight. Some of the boys who will be serving you coffee and drinks undertake the Certificate 2 in tourism. Okay. Rural operations is your entry-level rural industries course. Christian ministry is our base level theology. Fitness enables you to work in the gym. And then I've got there graphics and design. And at this stage we will be offering a Certificate 2 in graphics and design, but I can't say that or publish that yet because it's not actually on our scope of registration. But by the time next year rolls around, Certificate 2 in graphics and design will be on our scope of registration. But I'm not allowed to say that. Well, I just streamed that though, didn't I? All right, thanks, Mr. Owens. So back to our main slide again, distance education.
Can I just ask a quick question before you move on?
Yep.
So with the vet subjects, you say they contribute to the ATAR score. Do they have the same...
Only at Certificate 3 level. Yeah.
Same weighting as a general...
Probably not. They'll be scaled down to match the general subjects. There will be a set score though, a set number that the Certificate 3 courses will contribute to the ATAR, but I don't know whether that's been released yet. QCAA have said whatever the Cert 3, it won't vary. It'll be worth, I don't know, 60 marks out of 100 or whatever it may be. It certainly won't be up there in the 90s and 80s, okay? Which is again why I'm saying if you're serious about university, take the 5, okay? But 4 and a Certificate 3 will get you there as well. Distance education is the next option available for your son. If for some reason your son wants to do a subject and he can't do it at the school because we don't offer it, he is welcome to do it via distance education. The main provider of distance education, and probably the easiest one, is the Brisbane School of Distance Education. That particular organisation will send your son his course books, his learning materials, his exam schedules. They will mark his exams. They will have tutorials with him. So it's pretty much conducted off campus, but he does the work here in our study centre. And he can do a line of distance education as one of his particular subjects. The Brisbane School of Distance Education is a good option, but only if your son is organised, methodical, well planned and punctual. Anyone going to raise their hand up for their son being that? Well, that's a very quiet audience, okay? I have seen distance education fail terribly, okay, because the onus is on your son to take care for his own learning. It's very difficult, but it is doable. It's beautiful. You've just turned into Joe Cooper. It's also $1,000 per year, yeah, if you want to do that, okay? It's an option, and I'm putting it out there because your son might want to do it. It's not an option for everybody. Here are a couple of examples of things boys have done via distance education in the past. Okay? So at some stage, a boy at St Brendan's has been enrolled in distance education and undertaken those particular subjects. Brisbane Education, distance education, also have a full range of general subjects. So all the general subjects we've got up there, they will run them through the distance education school. Likewise with a lot of the applied subjects and some of the vocational education subjects as well. Okay? In other cases, it's been a kid has chosen to go to Brisbane distance education because where we've put a particular subject clashes with another one he wants to do, all right? And he's decided to, choose this one, but this one has to be done elsewhere. Okay. Music certification. There are a couple of music options for you as well. All right. If your son currently practices music or is learning to play an instrument, drums, guitar, they're very popular over there, he can continue to do that as one of his subjects. So he goes over to Mr. Owens, he has his music lesson with Mr. Owens teaches him to play the drums, Mr. Owens gives him a program, some of his other lessons he goes and does that independently, and then he meets back with Mr. Owens. We can up the ante a little bit by doing music theory and performance. So if your son is learning guitar and he has his lessons with Mr. Owens as well as learning to play, he can get qualifications to do that from the Australian Music Examination Board. so he can get his grades. Grade 5 guitar, grade 6 singing, grade 3 vocal, grade 4 saxophone, whatever it may be. Okay? Up the ante again. Music is a general subject. It contributes to his ATAR and is an academically demanding subject, but it does have performance components in it, so your boy gets to play his instrument as part of that particular course. If he is a musical wolf, do music. Do a private music as well. And one of the boys from grade 11 we spoke to this morning is doing exactly that. Okay. Last ones. TAFE University. If your son wants to go to TAFE next year, he is welcome to do so. Okay? There are parameters around it, but in the main, these are some of the TAFE courses that boys have done while they have studied senior school at St Brendan's. Okay. Seafood operations one is probably the most interesting story. We had a boy who wanted to be a marine parks officer. He wanted to work on the islands, he wanted to work in the fisheries. So when we started looking at what he needed to do as an entry level to get into that occupation, it came up that it was a Certificate 2 in Seafood Management. Okay? Well, let's find a TAFE that does it and we'll enrol you in it. Kingscliff, New South Wales. Okay? Wasn't problematic because it was done externally. Everything was sent to him. He worked on his Certificate 2 in Seafood Management in the library. And at the end of grade 12, he got it. There was one slight problem in that he had to attend Kingscliff to do his practical components. As it turned out, he had family there. Okay? So it was just a perfect fit for him. When he left grade 12, he worked on a cattle farm in the centre of Northern Territory. Okay? And I think he's still there. So go figure. TAFE courses, there is a cost involved in those, but most of the TAFEs have concessional rates for year high school students. It may require attendance at the TAFE, which is why your best option is the Rockhampton University where the TAFE Centre operates, or the Yeppoon TAFE. And we only let the boys participate in one of those, because if they're going out of school one day a week to attend TAFE, it's problematic to complete their other course requirements. And at the end of the day, those TAFE courses are effectively the same as the courses we run. Our vocational education courses are the same. They're a nationally recognised vet certificate. University, he can start university next year. Get a feel for it. Enrol in a semester course at Central Queensland University or any other university. Again, concessional fees, it'll cost him about $400 or $500 for a semester course. CQU run what they call their SUN program, Start University Now. So you can go and get a feel for what university's like. Okay? It won't contribute to the ATAR. If it does, I've got to go back and check my documentation to see whether it does. I wouldn't be putting a lot of emphasis on it, but it's just an experience for him. Here are some examples of what's available at the SUN program. Okay? But there is a wide range of other subject courses that he can participate in. Okay? We have had a boy do aviation technology because he wanted to get into the Defence Forces, and I think he's now flying planes for the Air Force. We had another boy a number of years ago do journalism. He did a semester, he got a distinction for his semester, and then he promptly dropped out. Okay? Any ideas why he dropped out? Hey? He became a teacher. No, he didn't become a teacher. He didn't like it. So he passed the course, but for him, he realised, my wolf is not interested in journalism. Okay? And for him, it meant, I don't do 2 years of schooling, get out, go to university for 6 months, and then find out I don't like it. Right? He found out at the time, and he's now an engineer working for, I don't know, BHP, I think, somewhere, doing a great job. All right? So those options are available for you. It can be a little bit complicated. Like I said, the ATAR impacts, the extra study impacts, they are problematic, but it is an option if you want to think about it. Okay, Study line I mentioned briefly previously. Under this new system, your son will still be able to choose a study line wherein he has 4 one-hour lessons a week supervised in the library to work on his assignments to revise for his exams. But it's only an option available if your son is doing 5 general subjects, he can pick up the study line. Or if he's doing 4 general subjects and a Cert 3 or an applied subject, in any event, if he's working towards an ATAR, he can pick up a study line. If he undertakes one of those external courses, TAFE course, distance ed course, university courses, he can pick up a study line. And if he's intent on getting a school-based apprenticeship or traineeship, because he has to go out of the school and miss time in school, we give him a study load to try and lighten that burden. Okay. So, where to from here? Your sons have already put their preferences into the preference database. They did it today as part of the process of showing them what to do. Okay? So they've put in their initial preferences. They will probably change them tomorrow after they've heard from the heads of department, and they will probably continue to change them, and they're welcome to do that. So the preference they put in are not set in stone. Okay? I had boys at my session today go, I've chosen this, this, this and this, and then when they heard about the ATAR options or the VET options, they said, I've got to change. I said, well, yeah, that's what these 2 days are about. Okay? Information about how your sons can access the Web Preferences database and how you can access the Web Preferences database to check what they're doing will be emailed home to you. Okay? And that's going to happen in the next week. All right? Probably in about just over a week's time, one of the members of the college leadership team will do an individual interview with your son, and we'll create a thing called a SET plan, Student Education and Training Plan, where we will look at the subjects in the preferences database and see whether that matches his career goals and see whether all these things align. We'll also look at his reports to see, you know, if you're failing core maths, it's probably not a good idea for you to attempt specialist mathematics. Okay? Let's narrow those ambitions a bit, sunshine. All right. Once we've done the interviews, we will change the preference database with them, and then we will again send those home to you. And once we've got all of what we perceive to be the final preferences from the boys, we will put that into the timetable program, and the timetable will generate the lines that the courses fit into. We do it this way rather than saying, well, we need 3 PE classes, we need a class on that line, and that line. Well, if we only get 15 boys who want to do PE, there's no point running those. But we might find from this particular cohort that 60 boys want to do PE. Right? Hence the reason we put in the timetable program to see if it can generate the best chance of your son getting all of the subjects he wants to do. Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that every school faces. Okay, if there are not enough people to run a subject, it can get canned. But we also recognise that we're going into a new structure, and it's the first time that it's operated, so there's a bit of leniency into class numbers. But that's all got to come down to what we can afford and logistically run. Yep. There's option for your son to get out of those subjects. There's option for your son to change subjects. And we're going to be implementing some academic coaching with all of your sons throughout grade 11, so we're hoping to track that process as well. All right. So the timetable creates the lines, and the timetable tells us that this is the best spot for these particular subjects. And if we put these subjects in these spots, your sons will have the greatest opportunity to get them. Once that's finalised, we will again send home those notifications to you, but invariably then over the Christmas holidays, your son will say, I've had another idea, I think I need to go and change, and he can do that as well. Okay. Questions? I know I've prattled on there for a while, but there's a fair bit in there to try and get your heads around. Yes. Yep. They are moderated for items 1, 2 and 3 in grade 12. The results are sent back to us. They're sent to the portal. Your son will be able to access those results in the portal. And yes, they're hoping to have the 1, 2 and 3 finalised, moderated and back to us by the time they walk into the external examination. Yeah. They've set up a schedule of set dates when we have to submit the necessary work to the Queensland Studies Curriculum Assessment Authority to be moderated and sent back to us with the results approved by them, basically. Okay. Yep. Yep. Could be dropped or raised depending on the outcome of that moderation process. Okay. That's going to be an interesting new phenomenon as well. Grade 11 marks don't count towards the ATAR, no. Okay? They do count towards a Queensland Certificate of Education, and that's my next invigorating PowerPoint presentation. Stay tuned. General subjects are scaled. Okay? I didn't want to talk too much about scaling now because they've just released a white paper to explain how they're going to do that. It's only new, but in a nutshell, is an A in physics worth the same as an A in physical education? Most of us would recognise that physics is harder than physical education, so how are they going to make that process even? And that process is called scaling. Okay? I'm an ex-phys ed teacher. I know that physics is much harder than physical education.
Sorry, if I recall a while ago, wasn't it correct because you're only effectively having 3 and a bit?
Yep, 3 and a bit terms.
Towards the end of year 11, weren't they going to start with a year?
Yep. Yep. Some faculty areas in grade 11 are going to run as few as 3 assessment tasks in grade 11, and we'll be commencing year 12 work in term 4 of commence year 12 work, term 4 of grade 11. Yep. Other faculties are saying, no, we need all the time for our foundational experience, and then we will start grade 12 work in grade 12. Okay? The individual heads of department can tell you that because, I mean, again, if you have a look back at what the suggestions are for the data, certain tests are much smaller than others. So it makes sense to leave it in their hands as to what they're going to do. And with people doing different things, it makes it very, very difficult to structure exam blocks. We will have very reduced exam blocks, if we have exam blocks at all, for internal assessment items 1, 2 and 3. Okay? Simply because there may not be many exams at those times. Okay. Other questions? Yep. Yep. Yep, essential English. Essential English. Essential English is an applied subject. That's its category. It's finished by the time, by week 4. Yeah, it's done. Okay. Done and dusted, like the vocational education. That's why we're saying why we have to have our valedictory before the exam block is some boys are finished and they're not coming back. Some boys will walk straight out the door into a job. They're not going to come back and sit an exam, or is there need for them to do that? Okay. One.
Sorry, there was one subject I think called
aquatic practices. It's a marine-based subject. They look at the marine environment, they look at coastal systems. It's also a practical subject, so they get their boat licence, their radio licence, they do surfing, fishing, those type of subjects as well. Okay, map reading skills, marine maps, compass work, all those fit into it. Okay. Yep. Yes. If you're doing a general subject, you need to sit for the exams to get your results. Okay. So, and one of the boys here in a minute, because I'm going to roll out a panel of experts, they're going to probably be talking. That's all right. Yeah, there is a scaling process, and that's going to happen to try and make the results even and fair. And again, you can't compare, well, you know that some subjects are more difficult than others. So a C in a specialist mathematics might equate to a B for geography. Well, you know, someone getting a C and a lower raw score, that result probably needs to be pushed up and balanced against a higher score in a less demanding subject per se. And we won't know. Okay, we do know that there is going to be a scaling process, but for scaling to work, they have to have all the raw results in and see how well have kids gone in these different subjects. So they won't release anything, they will outline the process that they're going to use, but they won't give us an indication of which subject will scale higher or lower until 2020 or the end of 2019 when they have the data to be able to do that. So at this stage, they've got no data about how to scale. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The best thing, again, the best thing for you to do is let him do the subjects that he is good at, that enthuse him, that engage him, okay? Because his results will be better. So if he's doing the subjects he likes, his results are probably going to be higher anyway, rather than sitting in a physics class trying to study physics because someone said you should do physics when he's a humanities-based kid. The best thing they can do for themselves is work as hard as they can, get the best results they can, and it all comes out in the wash at the end. Yep.
And say they're getting the lower scores like a C's or a low B or something like that, are they better off then going to a medium, the middle one, and getting and trying to get a higher score? Like will that scaling work out? So say he gets an A in the middle math or English instead of like a C in the extension, will it still will it scale out?
He just needs to do something that he's capable of doing. If you're pushing him into a specialist mathematics and he's not a mathematical wolf, he's going to struggle. So, trying to bring him down. Okay, you heard it first live, St Brendan's College on the 2nd of August. Yeah. We don't know yet. And again, remember, there's no, like, he's currently doing journey groups, extension, core, foundation, and specialist in mathematics. They're not going to exist. So there really isn't there's a general subject and there's applied subject. And if you want to get an ATAR, you should be doing general. Okay? So that's the advice. So I know we're running out of time, so I've still got a couple of things to do. So, folks, if you just like to stretch your legs, and my panel of experts will come to the front and we'll put them on the spot. So boys, up you come. So I'm calling them a panel of experts because they've been through the process. They've made mistakes in regards to the subjects they've chosen. They've made changes in the subjects they've chosen, and they're now progressing pretty well. Okay, but hearing it from these guys may give you hope that your son will make the right choices. So we start with Steele. Might just get Steele to explain to you the subjects he's doing and why he's doing it.
Sarah said all the subjects I did before, I think the certificate subjects, which I chose them because I had no interest in going to university, so I sort of hit the trade subjects, and that's what I liked doing those sort of subjects, so I enjoyed them and sort of a bit more enthusiastic about them. But I also did Maths A and English OP, which is, so I thought that would be equivalent to good point.
English OP is the equivalent of general English, and mathematics A is general mathematics.
Yeah, so I still did the ATAR subjects. So, and that was sort of suggested to me because I was sort of not just doing easy sort of subjects, I was capable of doing them, and sort of looks better on the resume, and yeah.
If you need a microphone, Rod, you probably agree with that statement about it looks good on the resume. Can you tell us about what you've been doing in the last few weeks?
Yeah, so I've attended a few interviews for a few mines, and I was at Blackwater yesterday actually for BHP, and I asked them, I said, so what subjects do you really look for? And they said OP English was a really major one. I know a few boys from here in our grade that put in for BHP that only do English Comm, and yeah, they didn't get to do past the first stage, so yeah.
So Rod's taken a slightly different track. Rod is OP eligible. He would say he was forced into that by his parents. He offered the point of view this morning to the boys that don't listen to your parents. Rod wasn't going to say that tonight, but Rod's now going to have an OP, and as he said, he's looking for a trade. Okay? So that has turned out well for him.
So, can you just tell me how many subjects you're doing? Because it's just the number. I don't want to be, overwhelmed.
So I do 5 OP subjects. Maths A, OP English, HB, Geography and Biology. I also do aquatic practices as a non-OP subject, just as Mr. Ron said, so I can get my boat licence and jet ski licence and all that. So I don't do any vet subjects, which I was stressing at the start of the year. I thought, I wouldn't be able to get a trade, but if your son goes well in maths and English, then it can get him a long way, even if he doesn't have those vet subjects.
Sorry, I missed the other guy's name. What subjects did you do again?
I got Cert 2 Automotive, Cert 2 Engineering, Cert 3 Christian Ministry, Cert 3 Fitness, and Cert 2 Timber Furnishing, and as well as Maths A and OP English.
So Rod's journey's been interesting because, like I said, starting off as an OP student or an ATAR student, he then made a number of changes early on in the piece because some of those subjects weren't working for him. As a result, I guess, of being unsure, as a result of being in things that he wasn't particularly enthused about, his OP prediction wasn't the best at the end of grade 11. Rod was 17 to 19, but over the course of the last 6 months or so, he's managed to drop that down to about an 11 to 13, and he's now starting to look at, well, I'm now getting close to an OP of 10. Okay? So I've done my 5 subjects, I've set myself up to my English and my maths, and now I'm heading towards an OP of 10, and I'm getting interviews with some of these companies. So it's worked out. Mason, on the other hand, down the far end, Mason was fairly clear from the beginning about the type of wolf he was. Mason, what type of wolf are you?
Definitely a type of math wolf.
Yeah. Let the people know what subjects you're doing.
I'm doing physics, mathsy, English, religion ethics, and chemistry and IPT.
Why did you choose those?
I chose the maths and physics and chemistry because I was thinking about engineering at the end of grade 10, and also just because I like math, and I chose IPT as basically just a hobby.
How do you found IPT? Now, IPT is probably going to equate to one of those general subjects called Design Solutions, so it's a programming-based course for those boys who are interested in technology. How have you found IPT?
I really like IPT. I went in it for mainly the game making, and there's a lot of that, so I like that.
Particular university you're looking to go to?
I'm looking at UQ or QUT, some kind of engineering course, I think.
And specialist area for engineering? What do you think?
I went to the QUT Open Day last weekend, and I didn't really know before then, but I'm thinking now maybe electrical and aerospace.
And you know the OT that's required for that?
Yeah, that's a OP of 4.
High 80s, low 90s, 8 ton. You're on track to get?
And that'd be around 1 to 2.
Pass it over to Henry. Henry's would be ATAR eligible as well, as those would be general subjects and OP subjects. Henry's biggest problem is this is where we work together. You still don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Say that to me.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what I want to do after school.
So folks, don't panic. Okay? These guys will make career changes and it's an item basically compared to what we may have done. But you know, not sure what you want to do, what subjects did you do, and why did you choose those?
I'm doing physics, math B, C, SOR, English and HB. Just because I like for most courses there's prerequisites and like there's usually like science or like your physics or your chemistry or biology, so I just chose one of them. OP English because that, and then math B is usually a prerequisite, so just to give me a bit of a range of subjects.
So when your son is choosing subjects, he's looking for an ATAR, don't forget prerequisites. Prerequisites are subjects he has to have done at school to allow him to get into that university course. So one, he needs the ATAR, two, he needs prerequisites. If he doesn't have prerequisites, he might have to enroll in a course to get those prerequisites at university level. Mathematics B, all the mathematics is the prerequisites that's most required for a range of subjects. Certainly general English will be required as a prerequisite just about all subjects, and a lot of subjects will state in the documentation one of chemistry, physics, biology if you're looking to go into the sciences or the maths. Okay? A lot of the humanities subjects, it's that OP or general English, that is the precursor there.
So with the new terminology, with engineering type courses, that would be general maths?
Yep, that will all start to change.
Yeah.
Now, normally, what we put in all these packs, each of your son have got one of these today. So if you're looking for information about the subjects and about the university entrance, it's in there. But normally at this time of the year, QTAC put out their course requirements for 2020. So your sons know exactly what. They haven't produced those yet at this stage. So in your son's pack is the sample for boys who will be graduating next 1919 of your sons. So we'll list the prerequisites. Most of them will be similar. The universities themselves are starting to change their documentation, so the best site to go will be to their website. You have questions for the boys? These guys were on a 7-line timetable, okay? And that's formed once the current year 11s. Well, actually, the current year 11s next year will go to a 6-line timetable as well. And again, the purpose was narrow things down, give them more time in their subjects, and start to specialise. Boys, words of wisdom for these guys. Recommendations. I had plenty this morning. Different audience. What would you like? What would be your suggestions for their sons?
Try not to leave everything to the last minute. Just get the work done.
Need to plan, right? Final piece of advice.
Don't make them do what they don't want to do.
What Rudd means is negotiate with your sons to a certain extent.
Yeah, probably the same as Rudd, just like do what you like doing, because then you'll obviously probably go better in it, because you actually enjoy it.
If like your boys do want to go down the trade subjects, I recommend they do the OP English, or ATAR English and ATAR Maths, because most of the big mining companies, that's what they want, yeah.
With the proviso that he is capable of that level of maths and a level of English. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. There's no point in rolling a subject that is simply does not you. Again, that gets problematic. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you could put your... Sorry, there's a question.
Add on that, like make my eldest son do, he said flexibility on the part.
You may notice they can time this stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, just put your hands together. All right. Now, you guys want to have another seat? There is now one other thing that I need to do, and I know we should be in there having a meal and a drink together, but if you can bear with me because this is as important as the other stuff. So, you thought there was enough language and enough provisos in the previous information. I now need to talk to you about the Queensland Certificate of Education. So this thing called the QCE. Okay? Now the QCE is a Year 12 certificate and it was first introduced in 2008. When your sons start their senior schooling, it will also be undergoing the biggest changes in a decade, and there have been a number of changes to the requirements to get this QCE. The QCE is a credit-based certificate. You have to get a certain number of credit to achieve it. It's a minimum standard certificate. There are benchmarks that your son has to attain to achieve it. It's not a time-based certificate. Okay, when a lot of us went to high school, we got our senior certificate regardless of the results that we attained on that particular piece of paper. That's no longer the case for your sons. It's not just about time. What does QCE look like? It looks like a single-page degree-style qualification that you would see on your accountant's wall or your doctor's wall or your lawyer's wall. Okay? Pretty much it's going to replicate what you're looking at up there. What accompanies a QCE? If your son meets those benchmarks, he will get that particular certificate. He will also get a senior statement. On that senior statement, it will list all the subjects he's participated in during senior school. It will list the result for each of those subjects from A to E. It will list the raw scores for each of his general subjects. And if he has attained any modules for vocational subjects, they will all be listed. Alternatively, if he's completed all the modules and gained accreditation for it, he will get the full certificate as a separate document. So those three things add up. Well, that's what the senior statement looks like. But those three things together, Queensland Certificate of Education, his senior statement and his vet qualifications will be his senior education profile. And he'll be sent all of those by the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority at the end of grade 12. Okay? Viewing those documents will also be available online. So, we said it's a credit-based system. How much credit does he need to get it? He needs 20 points. How does he get his points? He needs a C, which is a sound or a pass or a satisfactory in any general subject. Takes phys ed at the end of grade 12, gets a C, 4 points. Takes art, end of grade 12, gets a C, 4 points. English, C at the end of grade 12, 4 points. He can also get 4 points from any applied subject. Essential English, essential mathematics, visual arts in practice, aquatic practices, all worth 4 points if he gets the C. A vet qualification at Certificate 2 level, passes the whole thing, will give him 4 points. Vet Certificate 3, Christian Ministry and Fitness, he gets 8 points. Okay. Music Certificate, he takes MTP, Music Theory and Performance. He gets accreditation through the AMEB. There's 1 point. If he decides to do a school-based apprenticeship for the 100 days on-the-job training that he does over the 2 years, he will get 4 points. If he undertakes a school-based apprenticeship, as traineeship, as part of that process, he will do a Certificate 2 and he will get 4 points for the Certificate 2 that he's enrolled in, but no extra points for any school-based work that he does. And university courses down there, 2 points for a one-semester course, 4 points for a whole year's worth of work at a university. Okay? Now, there are rules in regards to how his points build up. And this is where things get a little bit complicated. For him to get the maximum of 4 points per general subject or applied subject, it would depend upon the satisfactory completion of Units 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4 in the following ways. If he undertakes Unit 1 in grade 11 and passes, gets a C, he will get 1 point. Likewise for Unit 2 in Year 11, 1 point. But then in grade 12, he has to pass both Units 3 and 4 as a pair to get the extra 2 points. And of course, if he does all of that, he gets a total of 4 points to contribute to his QCE. Okay. More about the rules. Partial points are possible for passing those single units 1 or 2. So if he passes Unit 1 but then fails the other units, he can still get a single point. Or if he passes Unit 1 or 2 but fails Unit 3 and 4, he can get 2 points. Okay? And I'd like to show you an example of how that works. So here's a kid and his planning pathways or his program. The U means unsatisfactory at Year 11, the S means satisfactory, and then of course for Units 3 and 4 at Year 12 level, he gets his A to E result. You can see there that he's failed Unit 1 of English, okay, got a bit of a wake-up call, decide I'm going to do better, so he's passed Unit 2, and then he's got a C for Units 3 and 4, okay. There's 3 points. By contrast, if we go down to agricultural science, you can see he's passed Unit 1, passed Unit 2, got a C for Units 3 and 4, there's 4 points. Okay? Drama, simply didn't do it for Unit 1. Okay? May have done a subject change, changed into it in Unit 2, 1 point for Unit 2, 2 points for his A result in Units 3 and 4, so there's 3 points in total. Okay. Now, previously, and I think this is a good change that they've made to the QCE, previously if your son got to the end of grade 12 and failed, okay, he got no points, nothing. All right. So at least there's an option here for kids to work out, you know, I don't want to be in this subject, I want to change. Or if they do a single semester at a subject and pass, there's scope for that 1 or 2 points, rather than just sticking it out, getting to the end, and then failing altogether. So I think this is one of the positive changes. That's monitored by the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority. Yeah, we track that. Okay. Under the current system, we send out letters every semester, whether or not they're on track to get their QCE or not. And every semester we've been sending out OP predictions since they were in grade 11. Brendan? Yeah. 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 You'll be able to go onto the portal and have a look at something very, very similar to that structure. Okay. So, another credit accrual example, or the ways of getting your necessary points. So, you can see in the top case, the boys passed everything. Happy days, there's your 4 points. Essential mathematics, he did okay at the first semester, or first unit, dropped off in the second unit, and then picked back up again. So because he failed Unit 2, he still gets his 3 points. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, different. Yeah, it will be tighter. Yeah, only doing 6 subjects or only doing 5 is problematic. So 5 works well for the ATAR, but if you fail one of them, you're not going to get your QCE. And I think that's a bit of a problem with the system at this point in time, which is why I think they've introduced down here individual points along the way to help kids get across the line. Okay? So you've got to get 20 points. You get individual points for some units and then 2 points for a pair in Unit 3 and 4. And as you can see, he undertook his Certificate 2 in Tourism, 100% completed. There's 4 marks for the Certificate 2 as well. Okay, is everyone still with me? Year 11, we are required, to report results to the Queensland Curriculum Assessment Authority as satisfactory or unsatisfactory. Okay, we'll be reporting to you at that semester level A to E. And for the general subjects, because even in Year 11, our teachers are designing what they call internal school marking guides. And so we're going to be using the numbers back in grade 11 so your sons have an idea of how they're going. Okay? I stress that that stuff is only provisional because none of it gets moderated until Year 12. But at least it'll give you an idea of how the marks work and how that then transfers back to an AE result other than just a sound or unsatisfactory. Different schools will do different things. That's what we've come to agreement that we're going to do. So as well as getting his 20 points, he must also meet the literacy requirement. And the literacy requirement means he has to get a sound at some stage for an English subject for 1 unit of English. Okay? So a sound in Unit 1 or a satisfactory in Unit 1, satisfactory in Unit 2 or a C for Units 3 and 4, that will meet the literacy requirement. And as I said up there, for Units 3 and 4, he's got to make that as a pair to meet the literacy requirement. Okay? When we send home those letters to boys every semester, we often put in there, at this point, we believe you're not eligible for your QCE because you haven't met the literacy requirement or you haven't met the points requirement. So it gives you an indication of what they need to do. Okay? There's also a numeracy requirement, okay, which means they have to pass a unit of mathematics at some stage in either Year 11 or pass a pair of units at some stage in grade 12. Okay? And there's some other things. So if we try and put this into a nutshell, you need 20 credit points. You must pass at least a semester or a unit of English or essential English. You must pass a unit of mathematics, be it mathematics general, mathematics methods, specialist mathematics, or essential mathematics. And you've then got this to contend with. 12 of his points have to come from core subjects in which he has been enrolled in for all 4 units. Okay? So 12 of his points got to come from subjects that he studied from woe to go, okay? Even if he doesn't pass them at the end of Year 12. But as long as he's been enrolled in them, he can contribute towards his QCE. Okay, and they are classified as core subjects. Most of our subjects, all of our subjects are core subjects, so you don't need to worry too much about that. But 12 of his points come from subjects that he studied for the full 2 years, and this is called the completed core rule. So you've got the 20 credit point rule, numeracy requirement, literacy requirement, and the completed core rule requirement. Okay? So, completed core is probably best shown by this particular example up here. If you have a look over at the side, all of those subjects will contribute to the completed core in different ways. Okay? So, he's obviously started in mathematical methods. Okay? Did okay the first semester, failed in Unit 2 or the second semester, and he decided to change to general mathematics. His 1 subject there for mathematical methods will give him 1 point towards his completed core, even though he's changed subjects there and hasn't studied for the whole time. But he can swap between his English and maths subjects and basically be exempt from this completed core rule. Okay? Not very confusing, is it? No. Clear as mud. Okay? You can see over here at ancient history, he failed ancient history, so he's not going to get any credit there, and it's not going to continue to his completed core rule. Okay? And the exemptions, as I said, are English and mathematics. Here's an example again of some completed core exemptions. Okay. So, it is possible for boys to stick out a subject for the entire year, get points for it, and those points will contribute to that completed core rule. Okay? And that's only available now because of the regulations that they've put in place about the 1 and the 2 points. Okay? Okay. So, what happens if he doesn't get his 20 credit points? He will still get a senior statement. showing all of his subjects. Okay, he'll still get any vocational education certificates that he's completed. He just won't have his QCE. Okay, but he can continue banking credit towards his QCE for 8 years after leaving school. So if he doesn't have enough points and he goes into an industry where he will complete a certificate course, he can get credit for that certificate course and bank it with the Queensland Curriculum Assessment Authority to get his 20 credit points. Okay? What I say to the boys is don't try and bank credits once you've left, because it's a hell of a lot easier to do it when you are here. Get your QCE while you're here. You don't have to worry about it down the track. Why do you want to get your QCE? It's been around for a decade. Employers know what it is, and some of them will use that as a basic benchmark for whether or not they will interview your son for certain occupations and jobs. Okay? It is a piece of paper that says you've met certain requirements. People know it in the workplace. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is about 85% of the population who exit in 2020 will have one. So the big question to that is, do you really want to be one of the 15% who don't? That's the end of my presentation on the QCE. Any questions? Yep. Yep. Yes, you'll get an ATAR. So by virtue of the fact that you've done 5 general subjects, you will get an ATAR regardless. Okay? But if you only do 5 subjects and you fail one of them, get a D in one of them, you're not going to get your QCE. Right. So again, while I say a study line's an option, it's a bit of a tricky option unless you are really committed and know what you're doing. So a good idea might be pick up 5 general subjects and 1 applied or a certificate course, just to give yourself a bit of leeway there, or do 6 general subjects. Okay, the options are there. Yeah. Again, study line, if you know where you're going, what you're doing, how to study, and you're competent at doing that. And we will try and upskill your boys along the way, but it's still pretty difficult. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming along. I hope that helps. I know there's a lot of information there to digest, and it's been a relatively long evening, but feel free to talk to me at any stage about some of that stuff, or speak to the heads of department about specific aspects of their particular courses. We've got food and drinks in there and available. Coffee is being served by the boys. Beer and wine are available. Please join us in our new canteen for a drink and something to eat. Thank you very much.